Hello again, everybody. Good afternoon. I am your host, Felipe and and you're listening to the Total Bases Podcast. As mentioned, I am your host, Felipe, and with me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm still just trying to figure out if it was a rat or a raccoon last night. That's the big story in Mets land is a rat or raccoon.
Is that about Jeff McNeil?
Yeah, well, what happened was there were some words, I think, said between Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil in the clubhouse tunnel. And as they were coming off the field, like the entire rest of the team ran into the clubhouse tunnel, and we had no clue what was going on. And then in the post game, they asked Francisco Lindor, "Hey, what happened? What was that all about?" And he said, "Oh, Jeff McNeil was just back there, and he's like, there's a raccoon back here." And I said, "No, it's a rat." And he said, "No, I think it's a raccoon." And he said, so we were just arguing over whether it was a raccoon or a rat. But it was obviously over something that happened on the field or in the dugout. But it was quite funny.
Basically, it involves some sort of woodland creature, including Jeff McNeil, who is a squirrel.
A squirrel. That's what I said. I'm saying, like, okay. Are we sure that it wasn't a squirrel?
Squirrel. That's pretty interesting. So there's already a little bit of a rift in Mets land. I mean, that's what happens.
Well, it seemed to blow over quite quickly because they batted right next to each other in the bottom of the ninth inning. And Francisco Lindor is back to hyping him up and talking to him in the on-deck circle before the inning began. So I think it's much ado about nothing, but funny story to begin with.
Yeah, sometimes, like my dad used to say, sometimes you just got to beat the shit out of somebody else just to make amends with someone. Real talk, men talk, right?
Hey, and it obviously it pissed off Lindor enough because he hit his first Mets home run. So tied the game. It was big.
Now he just has to keep doing that for the rest of the season. You know, just piss off your teammate until because that's not toxic at all, right?
Don't you know that you're toxic?
Is that Britney Spears?
Yes.
That's a 35 grade attempt right there. Good job.
Not even 40. Come on now.
No, you have room for improvement there, Sean.
Room for improvement.
If you're asking yourself why is Felipe back on the air, that's because we were doing a fantasy basketball special over at the Step Back podcast. Your boy finished second place, lost to Leon Tompkins in the championship game, but it was a fun season regardless. We're using CBS Sports as our as our website. So please be sure to check us out over at the Basketball Life group and check out that episode and watch me rip on Jacob Moses' team nonstop last night. Yeah,
that's always the best part of the Life groups is ripping on Jacob Moses.
Yeah, I mean, and I rip on the Mets fans here. Over there, it's the Knicks fans. So it was fun. It's been fun the last couple of weeks talking about
a Chicago fan ripping a New York fan. Never.
Not just a New York fan, a Mets fan and a Knicks fan. So you gotta, because I wasn't ripping on the Brooklyn Nets because my guy Kevin Durant's in that team. So a little bit of a crossover talk there. But today we are talking about former hyped up prospects who fell off the face of the earth and are finally back again. I have it listed as starting pitchers, relief pitchers, and we finish off the hitters. So without further ado, let's get started. I have the Fangraphs page open. I'm not going to share my screen because I don't like the way Fangraphs looks. But I do have 4 pitchers for you as we talked about it yesterday in our little chat there in private.
It was a very spirited discussion about who would be included and who would not be included.
But these are the 4 names that I gathered here. If I miss somebody, just give me a shout out and I'll add them to the list. The first one on the list, and I have this sorted by Sierra, who, by the way, that's the first where I wanted to start was, what is Sierra? And that stands for Skills Interactive Earned Run Average, or SIERA. And it takes into account pitchers, batted profile, and strikeout rates. And this is according to Fantrax. This is the website that we use for our Baseball Life Fantasy Baseball League. Batted profile and strikeout rates. If a pitcher induces a high amount of ground balls or fly balls, their Sierra will likely be lower, as it is a skill, hence the name Skill Interactive, that can help a pitcher carry a lower BABIP. Sierra also considers park factors and whether the pitcher is in a strong hitting or pitching environment. Sean, do you have anything to add about that statistic there?
No, not really. You got it covered. It's kind of a fancier version of FIP. So I've always liked it. I use it in conjunction. Like I said, use everything in moderation and just kind of take a little bit from everything.
Yeah, and for those who don't know FIP, field independent pitching, the way I like to describe that stat, which we could talk about it sparingly in this one, is imagine it's a pitcher versus a hitter and nobody else. No one's behind them. There's no defense, no fielders to grab outs for you. It's either you strike out a guy, you walk the guy, you hit a guy, or you give up a home run. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing one more component there. But yeah, basically, hence the name Field Independent, because the pitching is independent of the fielders that are behind them. But no, we're using Skills Interactive ERA, which actually does account for balls in play and things of that nature. So at the very top of this list, of this four-man rotation, is Carlos Rodon, who is 5-0, got the no-hitter earlier the year. Great story. Former top 5 draft pick for the White Sox, was actually released by the White Sox, came back to the White Sox, and he's been pretty dominant. It looks like all the plate discipline numbers are there. The StatCast numbers show a really, really good pitcher. Walks are in control. I mean, what's more to say about him? What do you got to add there about Carlos Rodon's comeback right now?
I think we always believed that Carlos Rodon had the skills and the ability to be a pitcher like this, but it was and the stuff. It was always just a matter of health. This was a guy who, in 2016, in his first, I believe that was his first full season. I'm trying to remember how much he threw in 2015. Okay, so 15 he had 23 starts. Okay. So, but in his second season, he was averaging nearly 95 miles an hour on the fastball, and then every year after that, it got lower and lower and lower.
Yep.
Until in 2019 and 2020, it was barely averaging 91 and a half, and that it wasn't going to work. I mean, that soft tossing lefty, that's not his style. It never was. Mm-hmm. But we fast forward to 2021. He's averaging 95 miles an hour on his four-seam fastball. Hitters just aren't hitting it. He's given up a combined 5 hits on fastballs alone. That's an 0.89 average against. He's everything we expected him to be, and he's still only 28 years old. So that was the one qualifier we did have, we should say, was these post-hype prospects had to be under 30 and undergoing their actual kind of breakout.
So you say. That's what I'm gonna leave it at that right now. So you say. But no, when I looked at the pitchers, I was looking for guys who were under 30 per your request. But you'll know it when we deal with it later on in the show. So really, it's basically Rodon finally putting it together in terms of consistency, in terms of health. I mean, this is a guy who had shoulder surgery and elbow surgery, all the surgeries on his throwing arm. So it's a really good story. Really good.
You get a surgery. You get a surgery. You get a surgery.
On your throwing arm here.
I just got impressions out here all day, so let's go.
Yeah, it's a 20 grade Oprah impression right there. Jacob Junis. Now, this is a guy I never really liked. I just don't think much about him. He's a soft tossing starting pitcher. But he was always regarded as someone to keep an eye on, a decent prospect for the Kansas City Royals, which I guess for the Royals, the pickings are always slim over there. But he's having a decent season so far. Strikeouts are way up. Whip is low. Sierra is working just fine. Does enough to get pitchers to chase his pitches. And the only thing I do have a problem here, Sean, before I release it back to you, is a hard hit rate, whether it's the Fangraphs definition or the StatCast definition. It's pretty damn high. But what do you have to add about Jacob Junis?
Yeah, this is going to be our first disagreement of the day. I don't think he's breaking out at all. He's actually lost his spot in the rotation. He's been moved to the bullpen, and his last few starts before going to the bullpen were not terrible. I will give Jacob Junis that. He had 3 consecutive quality starts on the 15th, 20th, 21st, and 27th. And then he was bumped from the rotation in favor of, I believe it was Daniel Lynch, one of the Royals' top prospects. And he's gone to the bullpen, and his 2 bullpen outings, he's given up a combined 6 runs. So it's not really working for him.
Why did he get demoted? I mean, because I'm looking at the Fangraphs starting pitching statistics only, and at 4 game starts, 27.9 strikeout rate, which has to be a career high for the guy. I never saw him as a strikeout pitcher, but it's way up there. ERA is low, 3.80, 117 whip, and again, this is only the starting pitching numbers, not the relief pitching numbers. So they look healthy, but why was he demoted? Is it just
I think he was always going to be one of their fringe guys. And you just look at all the other options they have. Danny Duffy's off to a great start. Mike Minor's going to be there. He's the one under contract. Right. And then some weird combination of Brad Keller, Daniel Lynch, Brady Singer. I mean, even right now, Chris Bubich is, and he was a high prospect for the Royals, right. But even he's in the bullpen as well. So I think it's one of those, they just ran out of spots. And
interesting.
Obviously, they're going to go for the high upside guys like Daniel Lynch and Brady Singer compared to Jacob Junis.
Well, I was never the big fan of Junis, but I just kind of found it weird that he finally looked like he was putting it together, and now, like you mentioned, he took a loss on Monday.
It definitely is a weird decision to make because, like I said, he had 3 consecutive quality starts. He did start the season off in the bullpen, so this was possibly something that we could have seen coming.
Yeah,
but I guess if there's an injury, then he could be irrelevant if he somehow can keep it together and being misused in the bullpen doesn't completely destroy him.
And like you mentioned, he took the loss on Monday, blew the save on Wednesday. So the transition looks like it's not fully there for him. I don't think he has gotten used to the new role or is refusing to accept it. You know how it is with these pitchers that you change their role a little bit and it messes up with their mind. Just kind of like how we made fun of our oldest Chapman. If he's pitching in the 7th or 8th inning, that messes up his mind and he can only pitch in the 9th. And
the thing with Junis is he throws like nothing but fastballs. He throws a 4-seamer and a cutter. That's it.
Yeah.
And he throws a changeup 4% of the time. That's it. So it's a weird Lance Lenny, Bartolo Colon-esque type profile that usually that doesn't work in the bullpen.
Seriously, no breaking pitches whatsoever?
He's thrown 3 sliders and then he has the cutter. I mean, if you want to classify a cutter as a breaking pitch, which nobody does.
I mean, but I guess
it's 4-seam cutter. That's it.
I guess in his profile it kind of does, but that's not going to cut it. No.
Now last year, which is weird, last year in 2020, his most thrown pitch was his slider, and he threw it 46% of the time. And it was an okay pitch. It wasn't great, but his cutter actually might just be a new classification of his slider. Now that I'm looking at some of the spin directions and spin rates on it, I think it just got reclassified.
Okay, so you mentioned spin rate, and let's we're halfway through this list, and I need to ask. There's been a lot of talk in the baseball group, and for those who don't know, we are listening to audio only. We are live on Facebook every weekend. It seems like, and we're part of the Baseball Live Facebook group. We're nearing that 7,000 membership threshold soon.
Woohoo!
Or at least we're slowly but surely marching on. We've been getting, as Sean, you're an admin now, so you saw that we've been getting a lot. We don't know where they're coming from, but we're getting a lot of requests lately. But one of the big hot button issues this past week was the freaking advanced analytics, StatCast, whatever bullshit. It's ruining baseball. Spin rate's so hot garbage. Why can't they just be a batter and a hitter and call it and eat a hot dog? Or I don't know,
why can't they just hit it the other way? Why can't they hit that 98-mile-an-hour fastball up at their hands to right field on a rope?
Why don't they use hot dogs instead of baseball bats? Or why do they have to use baseballs instead of Cracker Jacks? I don't know. But so you mentioned spin rate, and that was another one that was kind of a controversial. Like, what the hell is spin rate? What does that do? Sean, you seem to have a good handle. No pun intended. You have to have a good handle on these StatCast numbers. What does a good spin rate do for a pitcher, and why is it important?
It usually, when you're looking at breaking pitches, a lot of the time, and I am not the foremost expert. I try and learn a little bit about it every day.
Yeah.
But you're talking about tighter spin, on a slider instead of having some loopy pitch that kind of slowly breaks in, which sometimes is what you need if you catch somebody sleeping. But really what a lot of pitchers want is that hard late break. And as a Mets fan, and it's one of the preeminent sliders in baseball right now, is Jacob deGrom slider, and it has been for several years now. And it actually is thrown so hard and with such harsh movement that anytime you listen to interviews of other players, I remember seeing an interview with a couple of Braves players, Freddie Freeman and Nick Markakis, and they kept calling it a cutter because it's so hard and it doesn't have as much vertical depth, but it still gets that late break, both horizontal and vertical. And that's due to a higher spin rate, which deGrom throws what they call a bullet slider. And that was an old Mets pitching. Everyone who came up in the Mets system from 2015 to 2017 threw this bullet slider. It's why if you look at slider velos, the fastest sliders in baseball, out of the top 10, like 6 of them are Mets or former Mets. So it's definitely a philosophy. It's a very high spin rate slider that really almost looks more like a cutter.
Yeah, so kind of
Like Jacob Junis.
Jacob Junis, yeah, I was going to
Which
mention,
looking at it, he
good.
throws it a little bit harder than his slider from the past.
Yeah.
It gets a little less total movement, but it seems to be just as effective. So that was probably a decision. So maybe his cutter is more like a breaking ball. We'll give him that.
So that's interesting. So that's going to be something else we got to take into effect. It's like some of these cutters might start looking a little bit like a slider, and it's that ambiguity that makes it hard to classify. But maybe that's what pitchers need to fool some of these hitters who are going for all or nothing nowadays, which is another complaint about, like you just mentioned it. Why can't they get hit the other way? Why is everything got to be a home run? And you know what's my solution to it all is, Sean?
Okay, I'm watching a video of it now, and he just back-footed it to Rowdy Tellez. It looks a lot like a slider.
Well, as I was saying, my solution to all of this is bigger ballparks. Just do it already. Bigger ballparks will solve every problem.
Bigger ballparks are boring. I mean, look at Texas.
Well, listen, man.
They can't hit their way out of a boat.
Then stop bitching
Joey
about it.
Gallo can't hit a home run anymore. That's the only reason we draft Joey Gallo.
It's for the power. Well,
yeah,
he has to hit doubles. But yeah, I mean, stop your bitching. Then either you want bigger ballparks and get the athleticism and the great fielding plays, and limit the number of surgeries that pitchers go through, like a Carlos Rodon, and you cut down on the Tommy John's surgery, or you keep it the same way with the chick sticking in long ball and the high amount of home runs that are being hit. But, that means more shifting and more no-hitters, which is another one that people are complaining about. There's too many no-hitters now. Like, no one's happy. No one's happy. There's too many home runs. There's too many no-hitters. There's too much of everything. Meanwhile, I'm just enjoying baseball because it's the greatest game on the planet. So either you
I was getting severe like Mike Fiers energy during Wade Miley's no-hitter. I was like, this is a pitcher that shouldn't be throwing a no-hitter, and he's throwing a no-hitter.
I get it. I don't like Wade Miley either, but it's gonna balance itself out, right, Sean? Usually that's how it goes. Eventually, we're gonna go a season without no hitters, and then people are gonna, oh man, remember the glory days in 2021,
the great pitching days,
the great pitching days when Wade Miley can go out there and throw a no hitter. Now the best pitchers can't do shit. I mean, they're getting new arms, new prosthetic arms printed by 3D printers, and it's not even natural anymore. It's like synthetic arms now. So there's always going to be a complaint about everything. These science fiction nerds are taking over this game. Okay, so Dylan Cease is another guy. Dylan Cease is the youngest guy here at the age of 25, according to Fangraphs. He's kind of seen a rejuvenation of sorts. Strikeouts are way up there at 32% strikeout rate. The walks, there's still a little bit of problem. He still has a little bit of command issues, but the stuff is there. He's inducing more swings outside the strike zone. Let's see, what am I seeing here? The hard hit rates are low, whether using Fangraphs definition or Statcast definitions. So yeah, it looks like he's doing a lot better this year than last year. But yeah, again, the walks are a concern. He still has to work on that. What else do you have to say about Dylan Cease over there?
I've always liked Dylan Cease. I've always liked the stuff. He is kind of like, to me, a Mitch Keller, which if you look at Baseball Savant's player similarity, which they compare pitchers based on their velo and movement, him and Mitch Keller are neck and neck. I loved both of them coming up through the minors. They had these great high spin rate fastballs, and they had one great breaking pitch, one good breaking pitch, and they could throw a changeup, which is good. I like pitchers that they develop in the minors and they have a full repertoire. They're not just coming up with two pitches. Looking at you, Tyler Glasnow and the Nelson Lamet, but I've always liked that. But then they come up, and both Keller and Cease had these control issues, which had plagued them in the minors, but they had seemed to get a little bit better with it. And it reared its ugly head with Cease and Keller. They've both struggled with command. I mean, he only had a 4 ERA last year, but that was lucky to say the least. His expected ERA was nearly 7, and that was because of a dramatic drop in strikeout percentage, which was only 17%, and you said it's 32 this year. and his walk rate was 13%. And his walk rate this year is still high. It's 12%. So, but the quality of contact better. He's missing more bats. I am tentatively optimistic about Dylan Cease. It's just I am so scared to get my hopes up about him. My hopes have been always so high, and it's frustrating.
I mean, it's possible that he is turning a corner. I mean, he has the pedigree for it, but the other thing, as White Sox fans have to be concerned about, is that even when he was with the Cubs, a lot of these so-called experts, the prospect experts, were saying that if he doesn't, the stuff might not be good enough to be a starting pitcher, but it will play as a relief pitcher, and that's a red flag for me. But you have to try him out at starting pitcher before you commit to him at reliever. So I think that's part of the issue. But I listen, man. It's two White Sox players on this list, Rodon and Cease. There's no reason why their pitching staff is keeping that team above water, despite the fact that they keep losing all the Cuban players to long-term injuries. So yeah. But as long as you temper expectations, and Dylan Cease at the back end of your rotation as a waiver wire fodder, you could do a lot worse.
There was a lot of leagues where it was really funny. He was getting almost universally dropped, and then he came out on right at the end of April. I think he had that start against Detroit, and he went because he went 3 1/3 with 3 walks and 5 strikeouts on April 23rd against the Rangers, which everyone was like, that's going to be a good start for him because it's Texas. They've been terrible this year. And he can't even go 5 innings. He didn't go 5 innings in any of his first 4 starts. And that had him being universally dropped. I mean, people were tired of it. Yeah. And the very next week, he goes out there again, albeit against Detroit, and goes 7 innings, shutout ball, only allowed 3 hits, 9 strikeouts. And everyone's like, wait, do I need to go add him back? I mean, it's Detroit, but do I need to add him back? And a lot of people hesitated. A lot of people hesitated. But what does he do? He goes out there against the Cincinnati Reds, one of the best offenses in baseball. 6 innings, 1 hit, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks. But hey, if you're only going to allow 1 hit, I'll take 3 walks. And so now everyone's rushing back onto the Dylan Cease train. Shout out to Fantasy Central 1 on Twitter. He is been a Dylan Cease truther. And it was so funny because he was getting so disheartened. And he's like, I'm just about ready to give up. He said, I won't give up, but I'm ready to. And Dylan Cease is back? Question mark.
I mean, you said it right there that like people are saying, oh, but who cares? It's against the Tigers. Dude, he's in the AL Central. He's gonna be facing the Tigers and the Indians and the Royals when they're on the downside of their hot streaks. As that's gonna be a streaky team all year long. That he is gonna benefit from a soft schedule, so to speak, and just padding the stats against those anemic offenses. So yeah, I would temper expectations, but still, you pick him up because of the upside. Just keep him on your bench if you can, and hopefully this is the year he puts it together. It looks like he is, but I mean, I would just temper expectations. All right, last guy on the list, the Taiwan Walker. I mean, this is the reason why we're talking about these prospects is because it was brought up. The Taiwan Walker is having a decent season with the Mets. Here are the Fangraph numbers. Walk rate is still a little bit high. It's not as high as Dylan Cease, but at 3.97, it's pretty high for a starting pitcher. He has the highest Sierra of any of these pitchers. He's the only one over 4 at 4.21 to be exact. It's a healthy ERA though, healthy whip. The thing I don't like is that he, unlike these other guys that we just mentioned, he does not induce a lot of swings outside the strike zone. Contact rate is also highest among all the pitchers that we've mentioned today. Fastball looks like it's gaining some velocity little by little. Exit velocity is down again like last year, but the hard hit rates according to StatCast is still above 40%. So that's a bit of a concern. What else can you say about Taiwan Walker there?
You mentioned the walk rate, and I will classify it as this, as he had, yay, Jacob deGrom pitching tomorrow.
Finally.
So he had a 6 walk outing, and of his other games combined, I think he has 7 walks. So I think this is just a small sample size in terms of the walks. He's never been a high walk guy. He's never had a walk percentage over 9%. So there's that too. The most encouraging thing for me, and while it's still not even a major league average in terms of whiff rate, it's up from last year. And he was a guy last year that I was telling a lot of people, no, he's fool's gold right now, because he had like a 2 ERA, but just all the batted ball metrics were not good. He wasn't missing bats. The fastball velo really wasn't improving, which you like to see, coming off of injury, at least like with how much time he had to improve velo. But now this year, I believe it's an all-time high fastball average four-seam velo at 94.5. It's the highest one since 2015. So that fastball being up, I think allows him to really get more out of his other pitches, his slider, his splitter, which he really started throwing more last year. And he actually gets a pretty good whiff rate on all of his pitches. None of them are elite in terms of missing bats, but they're all pretty good. And all of his pitches, except the sinker, have a batting average against of 138 or less. The sinker is at 381. So maybe he should just tank that pitch. Don't throw it. But all of them are performing pretty well, are expected to perform pretty well. It's just he's more of the sum of his parts right now. And I think he might be overperforming a little bit. But hey, I mean, he looks locked in right now. The last two starts have gone pretty well. And he's striking out more guys than I really anticipated. So it'll be interesting to see how that holds up, because his 25.7 strikeout percentage would also be a career high.
Yeah, way more than any at any point. Well, I guess in 2019, but I don't think he pitched enough to really warrant a mention there. You mentioned he's never had a double-digit walk percentage. In 2014, he posted 11.3 walk percentage, albeit.
Oh, I'm looking at StatCast. I apologize. I was looking at since 2015.
Okay, so albeit only 8 games. I mean, still not enough sample size, but still, I mean, he was just starting out. And but also the other thing that we'd like to mention, that I wanted to mention, was similar strikeout per walk ratio, barely hovering at 2.5. It was over 2.5 last year. It's below 2.5 this year. So that's a concern. At least for me, it is. So, but, listen, man, this is the reason why we did this show, is because of Taiwan Walker. This guy, when he was with the Mariners, bona fide can't miss prospect.
Yep.
And just like Carlos Rodon, I mean, it got him a lot earlier than it did Rodon, but injuries just took a hold. Inconsistency took a hold. Just like he couldn't put it together, and it looks like he's finally getting it slowly but surely. So again, temporary expectations there. Relief pitchers. Okay, so this is going to be a hot button topic issue. Let's start out with at 11 games, 11 innings, Miguel Castro of the New York Mets. The Mets getting another relief pitcher that's worth talking about. And this is why I wanted to mention Miguel Castro. It seems like every single time, every other episode or once every 3 episodes, someone from that Jose Reyes and Troy Tulowitzki trade is being brought up. It always comes back, and here's Miguel Castro. I did not realize that he was then shipped off to the Mets later on.
Yeah, I totally forgot that he was originally with the Blue Jays. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and when we're not talking about Miguel Castro, we're talking about Jeff Hoffman, who was also part of that deal that sent Tulowitzki to Toronto and Jose Reyes to the Rockies, and then he gets traded to the Rockies along with I forgot who. I thought, okay, so it wasn't that trade, okay, but still, from the Rockies he goes to the Orioles, and now he's with the Mets. So it's always interesting how it always comes around to that trade. So Miguel Castro, not a lot of holds, has one blown save, but this is why I had to put him on the list. 40.4 strikeout rate, which equals to a 15.5 strikeout per 9. The whip is a little high for a relief pitcher, but still healthy enough at 1.27. ERA is still a little bit too high, but healthy enough for a relief pitcher at 3.27. 98 mile per hour sinker there, Sean. Exit velocity of 85.4. Where's the hard hit rates? There it is. Okay, so the problem here is the hard hit rate is 41.7 according to StatCast. That's a concern, but everything else about him is it's basically him throwing it down the middle and only giving up 58.4 contact rate, and that's just any contact rate, basically daring hitters to try to catch up with his 98 mile per hour sinker. How do you see it on your end over there?
This was a trade that in 2020 a lot of people, including Mets fans, were just like, oh no, this is Brody trading prospects for some random. They were pissed off about the Mariznick trade. They were pissed off about this trade. But this was a guy who, when he first started pitching for the Mets, like, one, we knew he had great stuff. I mean, had one of the highest average fastball velos in all of baseball. He had one of the highest whiff rate sliders in all of baseball. But what I didn't see coming was the evolution of his changeup. And it's actually now he's throwing his changeup more than he's throwing his slider, which I think is a really interesting development because of how great his slider actually was. And I believe that the reason he does that is right now the sinker and changeup. Gosh, I brain fart there. The sinker and changeup are playing really well off of each other, going in roughly the same direction, but the changeup is getting a lot of both vertical and horizontal movement, so it's moving even more than a sinker does. So not only are you getting the change of pace, but you're getting a whole lot more break on it. And he hasn't allowed a hit on his change, or okay, he's allowed 5 hits on his changeup. Hasn't allowed a hit on his slider yet. The slider's still a wipeout pitch.
Yeah.
And like you said, his sinker, they're batting 500 against it, but it's one of those, it's right down the middle, and they're still whiffing on it like 35% of the time, even when he does throw it. So sinker command could improve a little bit, but I do believe that the evolution of that changeup and how much he really believes in that pitch now, he's thrown it more this year than he's ever thrown it before in his career. I think that's added a whole new depth to Miguel Castro. And if you are in a saves plus holds league, he's going to get a lot of holds. He hasn't got a lot of holds yet because the Mets haven't scored any runs. But once they start scoring runs, once they have leads, he has been the consistent 7th, 8th inning guy. It's been Castro, May, Diaz. I mean, they have gone through that process several times. It's just they either don't have a lead to get the hold, so, hard to get holds when your team doesn't have a lead.
Moving on to the next guy on the list, it is Michael Kopech. I know you didn't want to mention him, but it's hard to ignore at this point.
He's like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Nobody talks about.
It's ridiculous. Well, it's because he's mostly coming out of the bullpen, but he already had 2 game starts, 8 combined innings there. I guess the White Sox are still kind of taking their sweet time with him. But in part-time duty, kind of being like the de facto long relief pitcher, 40.8 strikeout rate, which is the highest of the 5 pitches we're going to mention today. Walks a little bit too high, but we'll forgive him because he comes with, 96, 97 mile per hour fastball, 84 mile per hour exit velocity. He's the anti-Nick Madrigal, where Nick Madrigal still hasn't have a barrel to his name. Neither does Michael Kopech. He has not given up a single barrel so far this season. 22.7 hard hit rate according to StatCast. He induces swings outside the strike zone. Very low contact rates no matter where he's throwing. 18.3 swinging strike percentage. I mean, there's a lot to love here. The only thing you don't like is that he's not going to get saves. He doesn't get any holds because, again, he's just a mop-up guy, it seems like. Go ahead.
He's kind of been used almost in that TJ Antone role where when they see an opportunity to get, they're not putting him in for just an inning or 2, but they'll put him in either with the lead or when they're behind. But anytime he's pitched, he's gotten 2 or 3 innings. And that's a good thing because even if you are getting him and you're not getting any of these holds, you might sneak into a couple of saves, just like if he goes in and he ends the game. The White Sox could win by 10 runs, but if he pitches the last 3 innings, he gets a save. And, got to love those good old-fashioned random rules like that. But there's an interesting article from MLB from David Adler, and this was back on April 27th, so the data is a little old, but the lowest expected ERA, minimum of 50 batters faced going into April 27th, was Corbin Burns at 1.15, DeGrom at 1.33, Michael Kopech at 1.38. That's how dominant Kopech's been. And the strikeout rate was pushing like 40-50%, 47 at the time of this writing. I believe now it is at 43.5%. That's just insane. his ERA is 1.33 and his expected ERA has gone down since that article. His expected ERA is now 1.31, which is in the 99th percentile. So I think there's probably only one or two people ahead of him. But blazing fastball that we always knew he had. And the slider is just a terrific wipeout pitch. As he develops into more of a starter, which I think he's going to be by the end of the year, he's going to be, taking the ball every fifth day. I'd like to see more of the changeup. And I think that is going to be his next evolution in development cycle, is getting that changeup to where he can throw it and really use it to neutralize left-handed hitting.
Despite the fact that he isn't a closer or has a rotation spot with the White Sox, again, this is the third White Sox player we're mentioning today, so that's pretty cool. He's rostered in 76% of CBS sports leagues. So that should tell you all you need to know about how fantasy leaguers, despite the defined role for him, believe so much in Michael Kopech to kind of be like a second half play here. So that's pretty interesting. Moving on to Dwayne Underwood. So that is it. We go from one of the most exciting prospects to
the eye roll begins.
lower level prospect when he was with the Cubs. People were asking, why don't the Cubs have a starting pitcher coming out of the farm system? Well, he was one guy maybe that could have been something, and now he's a middle reliever for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
So he wasn't anything.
I mean, he was top 10 for a long time, but top 10 with the Cubs is still during the last years of Theo Epstein's general manager career. It wasn't, or not president career. Sorry, he wasn't.
There you go.
He was a president. Anyway, Underwood Jr. 30% strikeout rate. We just talked about two guys at the top with 40% plus strikeout rates. 30% for Underwood, so it's a big drop off there. But let's see. He does a really good job of controlling his walks, unlike the first two guys we mentioned, and Castro and Kopech. Whip is way too high though. So is the BABIP. ERA is under 4, so that's something to brag about. But he does have a 2.92 SIERA, so a little bit of long-term play here. Maybe his numbers will start improving. The more he pitches, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. 13.7 swinging strike rate. That's pretty healthy. He does get hit hard. 41.9 hard hit rate. According to Fangraphs, fastball probably has the lowest mile per hour velocity of these 5 pitchers. So yeah, when I first saw this, when I was talking to you, Sean, these numbers looked a lot better. And what a difference a day makes here.
Yeah. I'm looking at it now, and he's always had a very good changeup, and he still has it this year. And once again, we're seeing a pitcher. He's realized that over his career, his fastball is just bad. I mean, that's putting it very nicely. It's bad. It's a terrible pitch, and the changeup's his best pitch. So what is he doing in 2021? He's throwing the changeup the most out of any other pitch. He's throwing it over 33 or 32% of the time. Seeing a relief pitcher throw a changeup primarily, I'm just getting flashbacks to Cesar Valdez over in Baltimore, who has like 8 or 9 saves, and it pisses me off because he throws the ball like 2 miles an hour, and he doesn't really strike them. He has more strikeouts this year than normal. He throws changeups like 60% of the time. And I'm like, at that point, it's not even a changeup. It's just a really bad fastball.
Right.
And it's maybe Dwayne Underwood has a Cesar Valdez type career, but this was one of the guys, when you mentioned his name, I just kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, well, I don't want to talk about him. He's bad.
I wanted to have a nice list of starting pitchers. I mean, I'm looking for any prospects at this point. I know that I had to flip the Fangraphs page a couple of times to find him. And again, it looked pretty healthy the other day when I was looking at it, and then he must have something bad must have happened because now the numbers don't look good. But I'm looking at the Baseball Savant page. I mean, the strikeout rate is pretty healthy. The whiff rate is pretty healthy. Everything else is not healthy. Again, he gets rocked a lot, but it might have to do with the fact that he's just throwing a really crappy changeup, like you mentioned.
No, it's a good changeup. It's a good changeup.
Sorry,
crappy fastball.
Crappy fastball, but good changeup kind of thing here.
He has a 533 slugging against on his 4-seam this year. That's actually a career best.
Yeah, that's
in 2018. Batters slugged 714. In 2019, they slugged 800. In 2020, they slugged 711.
Yeah, he's just
So
he
that
wants a snack.
fastball is just like, oh my God.
Some positives here. He does have a healthy strikeout per walk rate. Again, he does do a good job of controlling the walks. It's at 420. That was last month. And then he's only given up 0.56 on the home run per 9. So he doesn't give up home runs, which allows him to have a healthy field independent pitching. So it's not the greatest, but it's just nice to see some improvement. I mean, this guy it looked like his career was over because the Cubs couldn't figure out a spot for him in the rotation, because why would you? But it looks like he might have found a little bit of a niche there on the bullpen for a really bad team in the Pirates. So moving on to another guy, Robert Stevenson, who, man, this guy was supposed to be something.
I remember him. He was top prospect for he was like a top 10 pick in that one of the early 2000 drafts.
I don't remember, but I just know that he was definitely top 5, top 10 for the Cincinnati Reds. First pick overall, number one, first round, 27 pick overall for the Reds.
27th. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. And his stock just kept falling and falling. Does have a 60 grade fastball according to Fangraphs, and right now he's throwing it at 96 miles per hour on average. A decent swinging strike percentage at 14.2. Has the highest outside the strike zone swing percentage of these 5 pitchers here.
Well, when you're pitching in Colorado, you better stay out of the zone.
Which he doesn't. Where's his zone?
Oh, yeah.
Interestingly enough, Sean, he does, of these 5 pitchers we're going to talk about here, he does have the highest zone percentage at 45.9%. The only guy, second is Dwayne Underwood Jr., but I think we know why Dwayne Underwood is just strikes there. And Miguel Castro is at the low end with 38.9, and I don't know if that's a command issue like you mentioned, or if that's just him trying to paint the corners and getting guys to no, because his swing outside the zone swinging strike from Miguel Castro is below 30%, so he doesn't get guys to chase. But I think we talked about him already, how his fastball is just so amazing. And anyway, all the reasons you mentioned as well. So Robert Stevenson, right? So the strikeout rate is at 24.6, which is not as high as the other guys we just mentioned. If we thought Underwood did a good job of controlling his walks, Stevenson has a 3.5 walk percentage. Is the lowest on this list.
Which is interesting because when Stevenson was coming up, he was much like Dylan Cease. The walk rates were always 11, 12, 13%. That was what held him back as a starter. And now as a reliever, he has like this minuscule walk rate. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, 1.13 whip. So if you're in a roto league or if you're in a categories league and you're desperate to find a low whip, I think this might be your guy. 2.70 ERA, same issue. If you're in those ERA leagues, go ahead and take a chance on him, maybe on the road and not at home. What else is up? What else did I notice about him? No, I mean, the issues are that he gets rocked. He has the highest hard hit rate of anybody here at 48.8%, according to StatCast. Highest barrel rate, according to StatCast. So, yeah, it's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. What's the final verdict from you on Robert Stevenson?
When you mentioned him, I was like, okay, maybe. And then I started to dig deeper into it. I think the thing that makes him stick out this year is so far as a 2.7 ERA as a Colorado reliever. And we've seen some hiccups from Daniel Bard. And so it's pretty easy to say, hey, maybe Robert Stevenson would be their closer. But it just looks like it's one of those smooth sailing couple of weeks for him. 2.7 ERA, but the expected ERA is over 5. Batting average against him right now is 241. Expected batting average is 287. They're slugging only 426 against him. Expected slugging is over 570. So, yeah, once again, this is a guy we're going to have to disagree on. I don't think he's breaking out. I just think it's fun to talk about a former top prospect has found a job. But, yeah, I'm not buying into Robert Stevenson just yet.
I'm not all in on Robert Stevenson. It's for the exercise itself that this was a former prospect. I mean, he still has the prospect report from when he was this 2017 report when he was the 7th ranked prospect for, I'm assuming, the Reds at that time. I can't remember who exactly. I just wanted to see here home and away splits. I know it's a small sample size, but interestingly enough, he's doing a much better job at home than he is on the road. So take that for what it's worth. 254 WOBA versus 357 on the road. So strange. So if
And
he's
the
at
fact
home,
that he's mainly a fastball slider guy, I look at his splits just this year, he's doing better versus right-handed pitching or right-handed hitters. So I worry about, any sort of solidified role if you can't get both sides out consistently.
So yeah, just a name to keep an eye on, and it's simply because he was a former top 10 prospect for the Reds. That's the only reason I brought him up there. And finally, speaking of top 10, for the Royals, a long time ago, it seems like, is the same age as Taiwan Walker, I believe, late 20s guy, whatever. It's Kyle Zimmer, first round pick, 5th overall, Sean, at one point with the Royals with cheese, and his stock just went on a precipitous drop. Jesus, I mean, he was supposed to be something, and I just never saw it in him. It seemed like every time I took a look at his profile page, it was always nothing to write home about. It was nothing impressive, and all of a sudden this year he's put in the on the bullpen, and here's the numbers. First of all, he has the highest win probability added of anybody on this list.
That's very random.
I have no idea. He does have a save. He does have 2 holds. Again, if you're in a holds league, you might want to consider it. This is the highest number of holds of anybody on this list. The walks are pretty healthy. The strikeouts are pretty low. This is the lowest strikeout guy of anybody on this 5-person list. Whip is at 0.90. Again, if you're in those rate stat leagues, go ahead and take a chance if you so choose. But he does have the highest FIP, XFIP, and Sierra of anybody on this list. Outside the strike zone swing percentage, 26.7, which is even lower than Miguel Castro. He doesn't get guys to chase according to the plate discipline number there. Highest contact rates of anybody, which equals to actually it's not that bad, a 37.5% hard hit rate against according to StatCast. So not as bad, but still there's no wow factor. Just the guy who goes out there and is able to escape death, I guess, for lack of a better term. Sean, I know you don't like this at all.
I'm actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm slightly more intrigued. Last year in 2020, he pitched 23 innings to a 1.57 ERA, and he did get a lot of chases. He's not getting chase rate or, a lot of chase this year. This year, the batted ball metrics are better but worse. In a weird way, he's giving up more hard contact. He's went from being well above average in avoiding barrels as well as avoiding hard contact. But this year that's gone down, but his ground ball percentage has spiked. I mean, it was 52% last year. It's 57 this year, or 56.5, which is up from 40% in 2019. He doesn't throw sinkers, 4-seam slider, curve. It's still got that starter's repertoire. This is a weird guy. It's interesting. He gets whiffs on the slider and the curveball. They don't hit the fastball well. It's got a negative launch angle against, so that's why he's getting a lot of the ground balls from it. I want to dig more into this. His expected ERA is lower than his actual ERA. He's got a 2.89 expected ERA. So even though they are hitting the ball a little bit harder against him this year, and they're not whiffing as much and they're not chasing as much so far, he's getting them to hit it into the dirt. And they got a solid defensive infield over there in I almost said Cleveland, in Kansas City. So he's taking advantage of it. I want to watch more film of him, and then maybe we can revisit Kyle Zimmer later this year.
Well, currently he's hurt. He's on the 10 ADL. He did throw a bullpen session yesterday. He has a back problem, so hoping that he comes back. He did make Paul Spore's 10 watch list guys back in late April, and this is what Paul Sporer of Fangraphs had to say about him. First of all, I didn't know that he was Bradley Zimmer's brother. I didn't know they were related.
Yes, I had a feeling about that.
Okay, well, are they related to Don Zimmer? Never mind. Okay, or Ryan Zimmerman?
Oh no,
Heine Zimmerman.
Oh no.
Okay. Paul Sporer finally found some health and looks like a solid middle relief option for the Royals. Dating back to his 23 innings last year, he now has a 33.7 innings of a 2.41 ERA and a 1.01 whip. That's my Paul Sporer impersonation. It's not very good. Okay. With a whip, 80
grade.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, let me try to pinch my nose, maybe because he does kind of have nasally. With a 27-point strikeout rate, he seems deep in the line for saves, but he could sneak some wins and holds if your league counts those, and just be a ratio stabilizer with some strikeouts. So, like I mentioned, if you're in a ratio league,
I know you said a ratio, but it sounded like you said a racial stabilizer.
yeah, Kyle Zimmer for racial equality and peace, right? Kyle Zimmer's going to
Stabilize
solve
those race relations.
he's here to save America from racial turmoil, black, white, and all ethnic backgrounds as well. Why not? So there it is. There's your bullpen report from guys who used to be like, I mean, Paul Sporer mentioned in his article, once elite prospects, I guess, even if they were elite prospects for their own teams. I mean, some of these guys are kind of questionable because I did reach for some of them, but these were all at one point decently rated prospects at the very least. And now they seem to have found a new role or a new chance in life to continue to survive in Major League Baseball, which is a hard thing to do. Let's move on to the hitters, and this is where we're going to stop. At the top of the list is Byron Buxton. I think what was the thing I told you yesterday? 12 times the charm with Byron Buxton.
And he's gone. Cue the South Park, and it's gone.
Well, who's that? What's that supposed to be?
That's when they go to the bank and they're like, I'd like to withdraw my money. And they're like, man, it's gone.
I thought it was always more like the banker, right? You're talking about the banker.
Yeah, the banker, yeah.
Okay, looks like you have $303 in here, and it's gone.
That's Byron Buxton. I mean, that is Byron Buxton in a nutshell. Yeah. It's like, oh, you have some money and it's gone. And, you know, I told you this yesterday too. Even before news of the new injury putting him out weeks, as Rocco Baldelli said, I would have been selling him like crazy. I feel like he's never going to get higher than that. I would have been sell. But of course he had to go get injured and avoid, throw a wrench in my plans there.
Wrench on his back.
Yeah.
Well, and his hip, actually.
He obviously he can't dodge a wrench then.
So a lot of hip problems in the AL Central. It had Luis Robert with the hip injury, and now it looks like Byron Buxton with a strained hip. It's not as serious as Robert, it looks like, but still.
They run too fast.
Buxton does run very fast. Luis Arias also for that team is hurt. Alex Kirilloff is also hurt. So maybe that's the reason why the White Sox shouldn't worry too much, because everybody's hurt in that division. But going back to Buxton, let's see. Okay, so the strikeouts are still bad. I should say
23.5%. That's like league average.
Sorry, I wanted to correct myself. The walk per strikeout rate is bad at 0.17. But listen, man, we've seen guys succeed with that low, very ridiculously low walk per strikeout. Tim Anderson is a guy that kind of pops in my head when I think about a really bad walk per strikeout ratio for hitters. And he's just producing. He has a ridiculous 402 ISO power. It's just crazy.
I mean, he was April Player of the Month over Mike Trout, and at first I was like, no, it should have been Trout. Like, Trout was just like insane. And then I went back and looked, and Buxton deserved it. And of course, I worry about the walk rate and the whiff rate and the chase rate are all still pretty bad, and are all reasons why I would at least try and sell them. On top of prior injury concerns. But we've always said, and Byron Buxton's still only 27 years old, which is mind blowing to me. But we always expected Buxton to have like 1 year where he is like 9 WAR player, Gold Glover, and he puts up like a 180 WRC plus. And right now he's at a 228. So obviously I don't think he was going to bat 370 all year. That would have been a little aggressive to estimate, but he was on pace 2.5 WAR player over his first 100 plate appearances. Add another 500. That's like a 10 WAR player. And I thought that this was going to be that year. I still would have tried to sell him because I don't trust him to stay healthy. And he can't stay healthy.
A couple more positives here. Hard hit rate is according to StatCast is close to 60%. Which is insane. Exit velocity is healthy. He leads this list of 7 players, I should say, with a barrel rate of 21.7%. The negatives, he's really free swinging, impatient, hacks at anything. But that's more of a credit to his crazy bat speed, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Lacks contact rate, has the highest swinging strike percentage of anybody. So all the reasons you kind of were alluding to as to why you want to sell high. But he's being productive. You are benefiting from it. So.
And this is something that we've seen from Buxton really over the last 3 years, since 2019. He's started hitting the ball more, barreling the ball more, and it's just gotten greater and greater until this year. And then he deals with the same issues that have held him back in the past, which are health related.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, it's a guy like Nico Hoerner, who is patient, does not swing a lot of bad pitches, has a very high contact rate compared to Buxton, and is able to hit the ball hard so far. I mean, albeit he's a recent addition here. He's only played in 11 games so far this season, but
and then he's got hurt, and now he's gone, which is why I didn't want to bring him up. But let's do it.
The former top 50 prospect, I believe, according to Major League Baseball's prospect list at one point, has a healthy hard hit rate in the few times that he's been there. The one thing I don't like is that he only has one barrel, albeit 11 games. He has one barrel, but in 11 games, he already has one more barrel than Nick Madrigal. But
his max EV is actually right there with Nick Madrigal's. So, this is what I'm not going to understand.
No, hold on. No.
It's at 104.8. What's a Madrigal?
Oh, I'm sorry. You said max.
Max
average.
EV. No.
Well, the average velocity is 90.1 for Nico Hoerner, 86 for Nick Madrigal, which is the lowest
Nick Madrigal has a higher max EV, so obviously he has more raw power.
Sure. Yeah, his raw power, ISO power of 0.086. I mean, that's just so ridiculously low for Nick. That's like little league numbers right there. So I'm gonna.
And yet he's still batting over 300 with a 350 on base.
No, we talked.
Darn,
it's empty calories, man.
Empty calories.
Empty calories.
At least he can stay on the field.
Yeah, well, when you're
it's funny with all of these injuries, like Tony La Russa still is benching Nick Madrigal like every third or fourth game for Lurie Garcia. Like what?
They love Lurie Garcia.
Oh my God, it's so frustrating. Anytime I see him out of the lineup, I'm like, why?
So I wanted to ask you. So I think we kind of talked about it a week or two ago. But Nico Hoerner, you buy in on Nico Hoerner as a second baseman when he's healthy for the rest of the season?
I like him. I just don't think he's all that different from Nick Madrigal. And you like to hate on Nick Madrigal. I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Unlike Nick Madrigal, Nico Hoerner can actually hit for power, some pop, some authority, where Nick Madrigal just has a really ridiculously high ground ball rate. I mean, he is fast, but when you're hitting weak grounders
in the minors, he had a 427 career slugging.
This isn't the minors. All right, this isn't the minors. This is Major League Baseball.
So far in his career, through 250 plate appearances, he has a 369 slugging.
0 barrels. It's already in his career. No, you have to care because that's the new way of gauging these.
We're talking about
players.
Hoerner here. We're talking about Hoerner, not Madrigal.
I thought we were talking about Madrigal. Yeah.
You say he hits for power. When he hit those 3 home runs, when he hit for 3 home runs, when he first came up in 2019, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, that he's got more power than we thought." It wasn't really. Yeah.
But he's still shown something in the majors.
Okay,
Nick
this year he has a 556 slugging because he has 6 doubles in only 11 games.
If Nick Madrigal could have done that for me, he still would have been on my points league, but he doesn't. And not to bash too much of Madrigal, because the whole second base thing, and this is why I talk about Nico Hoerner, second base just sucks, and they're full of those guys, those slap happy hitters. So it's really degrees of who's getting me some pop and who's not. Nico Hoerner might give me some pop when he's healthy. Nick Madrigal won't give me any pop whatsoever.
Okay. Also, I am looking at his hit chart for 2021. He has, like I said, 6 doubles. 4 of them are literally right on the line. They weren't like hard hit balls to the gap. They were pulled literally right over the bag. I mean, there's 2 right behind third base, and then that 2 that went to the wall. I'll give him that. He hit him to the wall.
So there you go. For those wanting to wonder why hitters don't have any back control, here's your back control guy right here. So hit them where they ain't. But again, I mean, even Nick Madrigal's not doing that. He's supposed to be faster than a lot of these second basemen. The potential is still high up there for Madrigal, and just kind of waiting.
Hoerner is fast. He has very underrated speed. He never, I think he only has like 6 stolen bases so far. 3 this year. In the minors, never stole that many, but he is pretty fast. 93rd percentile in sprint speed the last 2 years.
Are you able to sort sprint speed or any of those speed metrics over at Baseball Savant by second baseman? I'm kind of curious so while you do that, let me know when you're ready. But
positional ranked 3rd in 2020, 5th in 2021.
Who's number 1 and 2?
I would have to see that. Okay. You continue. I will find it.
All right. Well, here's where it gets controversial. I felt like since you brought up Taiwan Walker, listen, I've been in this thing for a long time now, since 2012, 2013. Anytime you talk about that class of prospects from the early 2010s, I get a little bit nostalgic, because that's how I got my start in as a sports writer of sorts, is talking about some of these prospects, including Taiwan Walker and this guy right here named Jake Mariznick, who is 30 years old, but as of March 30th, he just turned 30. So I snuck him in there because he is producing in very limited part-time duty here. So I checked out the splits. If you're in a daily league and the Cubs are facing a left-handed pitcher and you see Jake Mariznick is out there in the lineup, I think you are safe to say that you should go ahead and start this guy, as he's just hitting the crap out of the ball in very limited duty. Again, he's not playing every day, but again, I saw him on the Fangraphs, one of the first 4 pages again, and I go, hey, this is good. I remember this guy. He was supposed to be something.
He was kind of what he was Byron Buxton light in terms of prospect type. Like, he was still a top 100 guy. He was supposed to be a great defender, which he ended up becoming a great defender. But like Buxton, he never walks. He strikes out a lot. This year, when you first mentioned him, I was like, okay, let me go see. I know he's hit a couple of home runs, and that's probably boosting his numbers a little bit. But I wanted to dig deeper into it. And he has a 44% line drive percentage, which is just insane. Who does he think he is, Freddie Freeman? Like, it's not going to stay like that. But
what about this comparison? Let me ask you. When I first saw these numbers, you know who it kind of reminded me of? But obviously, without the speed and the fielding prowess, it kind of reminded me of Adam Duvall, what he has become.
Except I actually believe in Adam Duvall's power. He had back-to-back like 30 home run seasons. Jake Mariznick had back-to-back 3 home run seasons.
Okay, what about Adam?
I'm being facetious there, but I feel like that's what it was.
Adam Duvall light,
like Adam Duvall,
in terms of
who hasn't eaten in 3 months, maybe.
Wait, he hasn't eaten in 3 months? What's wrong with him?
Yeah, he's that skinny compared to Adam Duvall. Like, that's how light he's gonna be.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Another reason why I brought him up is because he was with the Marlins when Christian Yelich, they both got called up at the same time. You know how I feel about Christian Yelich, one of my favorite players. He kind of Christian Yelich is like if I, me, man, I'm very crusty and very jaded when it comes to heroes and all that nonsense. But Christian Yelich, if there's going to be a baseball hero that I have, it's going to be him. I love him when he was with the Marlins farm system, and the fact that Mariznick and him are connected because they got called up at the same time. I had to do it. He was part of that trade that sent, listen to this list. Mariznick got traded from the Marlins to the Astros for Colin Moran, Francis Martes, and a compensatory draft pick to the Houston Astros for Jared Cozart, Enrique Hernandez. Yes, that Enrique Hernandez, Kike Hernandez, and Austin Waits. So
and then Jared Cozart was traded from the Marlins to the Padres in the same deal that sent Chris Paddock from the Marlins to the Padres. That trade had a lot of interesting pieces when you go back and look at it. Cozart, Kike, it was a very interesting deal.
And then he went to the Mets for Blake Taylor, which I think you talked about him very early, if not in March sometime. Yep. I believe you talked about Blake Taylor from the Astros.
Left-handed relief pitcher, solid.
That's him, yeah. And it looks like Mariznick in very part-time duty also it was able to post similar numbers for the Mets last year in terms of the slash line. He's posting a very similar slash line for the Cubs this year, and again, very limited duty. So again, it's a matchup play, right? If you see the Cubs facing a left-handed pitcher and he's in the starting lineup early on in the day, I think you'd be hard pressed to not start him. I think you got to take advantage of the left-handed lefty splits or whatever they're called. I'm not a splits guy, as you could tell. I couldn't care less. But for this one, I go, well, how's he doing against left-handed pitching? And over the last 2 years, he's crushed it. So there's that. Where are we going?
I did get that second base speed rankings for you.
What do you got?
So Nico Warner is 6th at the position with a 28.7 feet per second. That is tied with Cesar Hernandez. Nick Madrigal is 12th at 28 feet per second, tied with Dylan Moore and slightly ahead of guys like Ozzie Albies and Jake Cronenworth. The most interesting one here is number 1 and number 2 are Gavin Lux and Nick Solak.
Wow.
And then number 3, who is faster than both in terms of average sprint speed, faster than Jazz Chisholm, Tommy Edman, and Whit Merrifield, who are all in the top 10. Number 3 is Jose Altuve.
Yeah, I believe
interesting. At 31 years old, there's 2 31-year-olds in that top 10 or in that top 5 between Cesar and Altuve, which is interesting. Everyone would think Jose Altuve is like, oh, he's done. He's lost it.
I honestly would
he's
think
faster than Jazz Chisholm, apparently.
I would have imagined that Altuve would be 12th and then Nick Madrigal would be up there. And there's, well, you know what it is, Sean, when you're constantly hitting ground balls to second and shortstop, you have no reason to run that fast, Nick Madrigal. So I could see it. I can see it. You know what it is. He can't hit the ball to the wall, so he hasn't been able to display his speed.
Yeah, he hasn't really been able to open up the throttle, right?
That has to be it. Now, did you tell me there was like another stat that you can do that is more accurate to how fast these guys are?
It's not really as fast as they are, but they're splits. They're split times. There's 0 to 90 splits. That is actually more indicative if you're looking at BABIP sort of calculations to see, hey, does this guy, because the ways to improve BABIP, be fast, hit ball hard. And if a guy is fast, but say he's like Avisail Garcia, big guy, fat, he is fast. He's always been one of the faster guys in the league, but his splits are a little bit more closer to average because it takes him longer to get up to speed.
Was he Donkey Kong?
Basically, I guess
from Mario Kart, I should say.
And so that was how using those splits is more of a accurate way to determine how speed influences things like BABIP and batting average.
Are you able to pull up the rankings on that statistic you were just talking about?
Yes.
Right okay. Here. You want me to continue? You
keep going. You keep going.
The next guy we're going to talk about is Willie Calhoun, who's I always liked them. Only thing I don't like about him is
love me some Willie Bats.
Only thing I don't like about him is he's too short and he only plays designated hitter for some reason. Is he? Do you know if he's actually been playing the field this year?
He's gotten a few appearances in left field.
Okay, that's good
I think the infield days are over, but yeah, I think he's played some left field and mainly DH'd.
I honestly did not know that he was an infield. I always thought he was an outfielder.
It was second when he came up with LA. He was playing a lot of second base.
Interesting.
And then when he was traded, Texas was like, I think still had. Did they have Ian Kinsler still?
Probably.
They would have been like right at the end of Ian Kinsler being there. But yeah, they said, yeah, we're not playing you at second base because it was an adventure with him. Well, and they moved him to left field, and he wasn't really that good in left field either. So it's
you know what it could have been there, Sean. It also could have been not just Ian Kinsler, but also Rognan Odor, or even
that would have been it. That would have been it right there.
Or maybe even Jurickson Profar.
Yeah, that would have been it. Odor definitely was it.
So back when the Rangers actually had some infield depth in their minor leagues. But yeah, so let's see. Willie Calhoun, wonderful walk to strikeout ratio. That's second on this list that we're talking here. 338 average. So there's a traditional number for you. Let's look. He's a very patient hitter, as we mentioned, but based on the walk per strikeout ratio. Very patient. He's the anti Byron Buxton here. Has the one of the lowest swinging strikes on this list. Hard hit rate according to Fangraphs isn't as high though, 32.7. What's the okay. Statcast, however, says that he's at a healthy 43.6%, so that's not bad. 90.8 exit velocity on average. I would like to see the barrels go up a little bit, but he's at 5.5% so far, which is still better than Nick Madrigal. And has one of the higher contact rates here. So there's a guy who can actually hit the ball with some authority.
He's Jeff McNeil with a little bit more power.
You think so?
I obviously the batting average might be a little bit lower, but when you look at, and I've always thought they were very close in terms of just pure hitting ability. Like I said, I am obsessed with prospect hit tools. When I see someone that is consistently hitting like 300, 330, 350 in the minors at every single stop, I am like, pause, wait a minute. Why isn't this guy ranked higher in prospect list? Oh, because he doesn't hit for power. He doesn't do this. Well, I don't care. If you have the God-given gift that guys like Willie Calhoun and Jeff McNeil have to be this good of hitters, you know something. And right now for him, it's always just been staying healthy and finding a home in the lineup because he is defensively challenged. But
yeah,
he's fun to watch. And I don't think he's ever going to be like a masher. Like, so you the barrels might never be more than like maybe a career best, like 10% rate. But he's one of those guys, his barrel percentage, I think, is going to stay low because he makes so much contact.
Yeah.
And so that tends to, the more contact you make, unless you're just Mike Trout, that usually your barrels drop a little bit because you're making all this contact. And sometimes it's on pitches that you're just dinking over, the third baseman's head or over the first baseman's head.
I forgot. Is 11.8 launch angle, is that good? I forgot.
That's line drive-ish, which is what Willie Calhoun is. I mean,
that's about right. Okay.
For his career, he's a 25%. They're saying 25% here. Line drive hitter, 29.6 his rookie year. Never posted lower than 22. He's at 27% this year. Like I said, I think he's more of a line drive guy than like a 30 home run threat.
Yeah.
But maybe Daniel Murphy's a good comp, like post breakout Daniel Murphy, like where he hits 20 to 25 home runs with like 30, 40 doubles. I could see that.
Yeah, it feels like we've been waiting for Willie Calhoun forever now. It looks like he's finally getting a chance. Another Texas Rangers player, Nate Lowe.
Hey, did you have Nate Lowe on pace for a 30-20 season?
I don't think
he's on pace for a 30-20 season.
Yeah, has 7 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 11 walk percentage, which is the second highest on the list behind Nico Horner. Also has the second highest strikeout rate behind Jake Mariznick. So you take the good with the bad there, but isolated power 203, which is pretty healthy. Batting 273 with the ops of 835. So yeah, he's having himself a hell of a season. Very patient hitter. That's going to be a theme for the Rangers, isn't it? If we break it down, another patient hitter, just like Willie Calhoun, does not swing outside the strike zone. Decent contact rate for a power hitter of his stature. 10.1 swinging strike percentage, which is not too ridiculous. I mean, it's not as good as Willie Calhoun, but for a power hitter, you always assume it's high. It would be higher. Hard hit rate according to StatCast of 45.5%, and finally the barrel rate, 14.8, which is the second highest on this list behind Byron Buxton. What else did I want to say? Healthy exit velocity of 90.9. I know you saw Nate Lowe a lot back in your
Josh. I unfortunately didn't get to see Nate Lowe. He did dominate in Montgomery, but that was in 2018. He batted 340 with an OPS over 1,000.
Okay.
He walked more than he struck out, and everyone just raved about him but his brother Josh Lowe was in Montgomery the very next year. And so I started digging in more into Nate Lowe, and you look at his numbers in the minors and you can't help but be impressed. 300 average, 400 on base in the minors, and a 483 slugging. So it always felt like maybe that power was going to be the last thing that came. And here we are. In the minors, he never struggled with lefties, but so far, in his first year in 2019 with the Rays, he had an OPS over 1,000 versus lefties and only 25 at bats. But since then, has really struggled against lefties, which might worry me a little bit in terms of platoon issues. But I believe he has a home run against a lefty this year, so congrats to him. But the interesting thing with him is that he has stolen 4 bases. And at first base, we're just not really expecting anything from a first baseman in terms of steals.
Well,
I mean, the last guy to do that was like Paul Goldschmidt like 5 years ago. Yep. And I was just looking at this in the minors. he stole a combined 4 bases over 400 games. Gets to the major leagues and steals 4 bases in 25 games or 30 games, whatever it is. I think that's really impressive.
It is very impressive. Yeah, you're right. It is a rarity. It's
Especially like the Rays. The Rays run a lot in the minors, especially with their fast players. But maybe since he was the big plotting lefty first baseman, they never gave him the green light. And now the Rangers are like, hell, we're not winning anyway. Everybody gets the green light. And he's just having fun with it.
That's what I thought as well. All right, let's move on to the next guy because we're almost close to finishing up this list. Alex Verdugo. This has caused a little bit of controversy when we were talking about him because I honestly thought last year was people were still kind of concerned and there was that back problem that seemed to not go away. He's having a much better year so far this year than last year, and here's how it tailed the tape for him. Oh, just like Nate Lowe, 4 home runs and 3 stolen bases. So the power seems to be finally creeping up a little bit. He has displayed some speed with the Red Sox, who I didn't realize they had the best record in Major League Baseball. So he's a big part of that. Okay, so here it is. A .67 walk per strikeout ratio. Very good batting eye. He's always had that, even with the Dodgers, but it seems like now it's more magnified now that he is getting regular playing time. 301 batting average, 849 ops. The 30.1% swing rate. I mean, this guy is very outside the strike zone swing rate. Very patient guy. Where's the swing and strike? Swing and strike. Take a look at this. 5.3 swing and strike percentage, the lowest on this list there, Sean.
Yeah. It's he looking at a lot of the hitters we've looked at so far, you look at their whiff rate against the fastballs, breaking balls, and off speed. And there's usually at least one that's well over 30 that the hitter struggles with. The highest one for Alex Verdugo is 17.8, which would have been like the lowest of any of the other ones. And that's on breaking pitches, which he's still batting 250 against. So it's not like he's a complete loss against the breaking pitches. He's an absolute fastball hunter, batting 411 on him, only whiffing 11% of the time. So he's a stud. And the reason I'm going to let you finish first. Go ahead.
I was going to say he has the highest contact rate, 88.6% on this list.
Yeah. So the reason that this was a hotly debated thing about whether we were going to include him on this list, he is not included on my list, on my little Fangraphs sheet I have pulled up. And that's because Verdugo already broke out. He was great last year in 2020. He played in 53 games, posted a career high 844 OPS. At that point, it was his career high. This year, he's an 849 OPS. So it's really a lot of the same. So I didn't think that he was just now breaking out. But some things that I do like that he's doing more this year compared to last year is the ground ball percentage is down, fly ball percentage is up, line drive percentage is holding steady. So he's not really sacrificing the line drives to get more fly balls. He's just getting the ball off the ground more. And I see a lot of Michael Brantley in Alex Verdugo. I think that's the comp that I'm going to go with there.
It's a really good comp. I like that. I like that a lot. Michael Brantley always had a high contact rate, hit for average. I honestly had a lot of high hopes for Michael Brantley before the shoulder injuries seemed to have taken over for him. I feel like he's not been the same, but he was able to transform into a very good professional Major League Baseball hitter. So yeah, for sure. That's a really good comp. And then finally, the last guy on the list, Francisco Mejia, only 19 games, 67 plate appearances. I think there's still a split between him and Mike Zunino. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's basically half and half.
But still, I mean, he's finally hitting the way we thought he could hit.
So we think.
300 batting average, 798 ops for a catcher.
We'll take those numbers, but wait until we pop the hood, and then you're gonna be like, I need a fire extinguisher. This thing's broken. It's on fire.
Well, I was gonna say we were kind of ragging on Byron Buxton for having these free swinging, impatient approach to the plate. Francisco Mejia is even worse. He swings at half of pitches he sees outside the strike zone. 60% overall swing rate. So he's just hacking. This is like Pablo Sandoval numbers over here. But I guess because he swings at a lot of pitches, he also makes a lot of contact rate. Only a 10.6 swinging strike, which for a guy who swings at a lot of pitches outside the strike zone, I'm kind of surprised that it's not higher, that it's not reaching the Byron Buxton levels. Let's see what the StatCast numbers say. 86.7 mile per hour exit velocity, which is that's bad. A hard hit rate of 27.5%. I mean, who is he? Willie Calhoun? Although I might be wrong. I think maybe Astudillo is even lower than that, but just the fact that it's 27.5% and is kind of disappointing because Mejia came with a lot more, hype in regards to that bat tool. What were you going to say over there?
No, I was yawning. My bad.
Oh, am I boring you there, Sean? What the hell?
Falling asleep over here.
Yeah, it's getting late. I'm actually done. What do you got to say about Mejia here?
He has been one of the most frustrating prospects I've ever watched come up because I was the biggest Mejia fan. Because once again, I see these batting averages that are consistently 300, 340, 333. I mean, the lowest batting average he had at a stop was in A-ball in 2015. He batted 243 and followed that up the next year by batting 342 as he jumped up 2 levels. And he just hasn't put it together at the major league level. I was hoping that the trade to Tampa, maybe they'll help him figure it out. And of course, we can look at his 300 average right now and say, yes, he's figured it out. But it's just so blatantly obvious that all of the issues that have held him back are still there. 234 expected batting average, right in line. It's slightly better than his career normal for that. He's overperforming his WOBA expected WOBA by nearly 80 points. He's got a 346. His expected WOBA is 278. Just not good. His defense, he's still not a good framer behind the plate. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that if Tampa, I think, doesn't see more growth from him, they trade him. And which sucks because I was excited for him to go to Tampa. Hey, he only has to beat out Mike Zunino. This is the Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux story all over again. We want the prospect that we've always loved, but he can't wrestle the job away from the veteran. Yeah. And I don't think Mejia. He's only 25 years old. I'll give him that, but it's time. Like you got to show me something, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's all the players that we had. You know what? And after thinking about it, I feel like, if you're looking for some fantasy baseball help for this upcoming week, I feel like we didn't provide that this week because I wanted to do something different, Sean. So I'm glad that you actually brought up like some of these former hyped up prospects from yesteryear and bringing them to light. So for the people, I just want a yes or no answer I'm going to do lightning round, throw names at you. All right. And this is the CBS Sports guys who are, I'm going to say 55% or lower. So these guys are available and only have an ownership rating of 55% or lower. So if you're in need of help, there's a really good chance you can pick up some of these guys. So again, yes or no, gut reaction.
Okay.
Josh Rojas.
Yes. He's on fire.
Yeah. He's on fire. Dom Nunez, catcher for the Rockies.
If you've lost Travis d'Arnaud or any of those other catchers who are injured, then yeah, sure, go for it.
And just pulling up, I don't know why it's so slow. Okay, Josh Rojas plays second base, right field, and shortstop for those wondering. For the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, and with Cole Calhoun out and Ketel Marte on the way back, Tim LeCastro is also back. Josh Rojas might start to lose a little bit of time, but he did play a lot of shortstop while Nick Ahmed was out. Nick Ahmed is struggling, but the Diamondbacks always play Nick Ahmed because of his defense. But Rojas is a guy that I've been tooting that train for like 3 years now.
Yes, you have. We talked about him a little bit earlier today. Daniel Lynch, starting pitcher for the Royals. Yes or no?
Great stuff. I'm not sure I would buy in just yet, but obviously keeper dynasty. Yeah, you need to be on him if he's available.
Okay. Tyler O'Neill from the St. Louis Cardinals plays all outfield positions, I believe. Yes or no?
If you're screwed in the outfield right now, like I am, yeah, go for it.
Sorry, correction. Only plays left field. Sorry about that. I could have sworn he played all 3 positions. 21%. William Contreras, not Wilson Contreras. It's his brother, William Contreras, for the Atlanta Braves.
There's better. I would rather have Dom Nunez.
Interesting. Very interesting. In only 13 at bats, William Contreras is hitting 308. Still not a believer?
No.
Okay.
It's like 4 games.
I know. Just sample size issue. Adver Alzolay, 40% owned, starting pitcher for the Cubs.
I would hope there's somebody better on the stream, on the waiver wire.
Okay. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. Tucker Barnhart, catcher for the Cincinnati Reds.
There's him and Stevenson are still about a 50-50 split. I have the Stevenson side of that because I believe more in Stevenson's bat. But Barnhart has retooled his swing a little bit, so yeah, go for it. Once again, I'd probably if we have Barnhart, Nunez, Contreras, yeah, Barnhart's going to be at the top of that list.
All right. Tony Gonsolin is expected to come back maybe by May 18th with a shoulder injury. I don't believe it. Only when I see it. 45% on. Do you believe in Tony Gonsolin? Yes or no?
He might be a good stash now with some of the injuries they faced. Yeah, I would go ahead and stash him now.
Okay. Tyler Anderson. It's a guy we always bring up. Now he's at 28%. I feel like he's dropped a little bit, but Tyler Anderson, yes or no?
Pirates Tyler Anderson, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe it would depend on matchup.
Okay, I am pulling that up right now. He gets the Cubs tomorrow.
Oh, start, baby, start.
It's at Wrigley Field against Kyle Hendricks. It is Mother's Day.
And he is a lefty, and that lineup does do somewhat well against lefties. So
Jake Mariznick.
Maybe I pumped the brakes a little bit, but yeah, I would start him.
Yeah, you gotta be careful because Jake Mariznick's gonna be in the lineup. I bet, huh?
I think we're worried about Chris Bryant.
Sure. Why not? He's also the next start after that. It's the 14th of May at home against the Giants against my guy Kevin Gossman. So yeah, don't pick him up. It's too choppy right there. Where am I? Willie Calhoun. We just talked about him. I would assume.
Wait, you said is it a 2-start week for Tyler Anderson?
No, because he pitches tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if his next start is in San Francisco, him as a lefty, that Giants team is just absolutely pounding lefties right now. Darren Ruff, Evan Longoria, Wilmer Flores, all guys that crush lefties. I would not start him versus the Giants.
It's at Pittsburgh, by the way.
Yes, even more reason not to start him.
Okay.
I think that's a more hitter-friendly park than San Francisco.
True. Willie Calhoun, we just talked about him. He's only at 50% ownership rate.
Get him now, people.
Yeah. Okay. Garrett Richards, a little bit of a bounce back all of a sudden. I think he had a hell of a week in week 5. I lost.
All it takes is one time facing the Mets, and you get your life back on track. Apparently. So,
what do you think? Is he?
I've always liked Garrett Richards, and I was ready to give up on him, but hey, his last few starts have made me, he's kind of like my Dylan Cease.
Well, for those in daily leagues, they only have until 7:00 Eastern time, I believe. He's in Baltimore today. Yes or no?
Yeah, I have him starting in my daily league.
Oh, okay. And then on the 13th of May, he faces the Oakland Athletics and Sean.
I'm starting him there too.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Even at Boston?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's really come onto his own on the road here the last 2 starts, but okay. Duly noted. Mike Zunino, we just talked about him a little bit with Francisco Mejia. You're staying away from that Rays catching situation, I'm assuming?
Yeah, Zunino I'll never ever pick, and Mejia, I don't believe it. I want to. It's awesome to look and see him batting 300. It's just I know it's not going to stay.
Josh Harrison, middle infielder, second baseman for the Washington Nationals.
You're going to need to be like really screwed if you're picking him up.
Luis Garcia from the Astros. He's starting on Monday, and I believe that might be 2 starts for him. He faces the Angels.
I'm not sure if he is going to be getting 2 starts. He's been like a spot starter for them so far.
Okay.
So I don't know. He's the weird name out of all the names that they've started. I'm not really sure why they've gone to him, but I like some of the other names more. The Abreu's, the Bielix. But he's been pretty good so far this year, so maybe.
Okay. AJ Pollock is expected to return maybe today from a hamstring, 50% owned, coin flip. What do you think?
Is he going to get me 7 RBIs in a game like he did that last time?
I don't know.
It's hard to tell at this point. Granted, that Diamondbacks team, that Dodgers team is just like falling apart at the seams. Everyone's dropping like flies. So maybe he becomes more than a platoon bat when he comes back, so that'd be nice.
Sorry. Okay, so I was only reading the abbreviated injury report that says he's probable for today. I mean, he's not on a DL.
Not on the IL.
But 6 hours ago was diagnosed with a grade 1 hamstring strain on Friday.
Of course.
Pollock was removed from Friday's game in the 6th inning after fielding a triple. He's currently considered day-to-day. Will be reevaluated Saturday today to determine the extent of the issue.
George Springer was just AJ Pollock that got almost double the money. Or over double the money. That's all it was. old freaking center fielders that weren't going to play center field anymore with a history of chronic leg injuries. Yeah, let's give them big bucks. Oh my God, Mets fans.
Big Buxton.
Uh,
Pavin Smith. I know that's one of your guys
yeah, Pavin and Josh Rojas. Go get him.
First
Pavin
base,
Smith has
center field, and right field eligibility, by the way.
He has really filled in great for Cole Calhoun. He started off the year in right field for Cole Calhoun. Calhoun came back, hurt his hamstring again. He's kind of in that Alex Verdugo type mold. Doesn't really whiff at a lot of pitches. He's got a 89 mile an hour average exit velo, 289 expected batting average, which is almost identical to his expected batting average from last year. I expect him to walk a little bit more, but he is just a steady Eddie as they come at the plate. He's been leading off a lot in that lineup. Multi-versatility, like you said. Add him. I think he's the guy. I would add him over Rojas, even though Rojas is the hotter hitter right now. I think Pavin has the more stable job.
Mike Talkman, who just recently got traded to the Giants, it looks like he's been playing every day.
Eat your heart out, Vince Mercandetti.
What's the joke there?
Oh, he's very mad that they gave up on Talkman and kept Gardner on the roster.
Well, Gardner is signed under contract, so I'm pretty sure. What did the Yankees get? Do you remember what the Yankees got in that trade?
They got Wandy Peralta, left-handed reliever.
So maybe they need a left-handed reliever. I don't know.
Yeah, can't have too many Aroldis Chapmans in the bullpen.
Jesus. So he's only owned in 17%. So I think people are kind of still iffy about him. I know the Giants have like a million outfielders that they can.
But they're all hurt. They're all hurt.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are they still all hurt?
Yaz is supposed to be coming back, I believe, today or sometime this weekend. I'm not sure. He is on the mend. Alex Dickerson's really struggled. Austin Slater has struggled. Both guys who I was very high on, and this is depressing. But my issue with Mike Talkman was I thought that if he stayed in New York, he would be really good. He was one of those guys where his power played up in New York, and I'm not sure if it's going to do that anyplace else. It's definitely not going to do it in San Francisco. Maybe he's going to hit lead the league in triples, maybe. But offensively, I'm not really sure this is the best fit for him. He'll be a good player for them, but I'm not sure if he's going to be the 2019 Mike Talkman that, took the fantasy world by storm and when the entire team fell apart in New York.
Going to roster resource, Mike Talkman is your leadoff hitter and
starting center fielder. Left fielder. Okay.
Mike Yastrzemski batting number 2, and that's what happened yesterday. Today, I should say. Today, not yesterday.
Like I said, he was supposed to be coming back today or tomorrow.
Well, here's the problem with the Giants. They have platoons for everybody. So Talkman and Steven Dugar are the left-handed platoon outfielders, and then it's the combination of Darren Ruff, Mauricio Dubon, and Austin Slater as the right-handed versions of those. So that's a problem. But Talkman, to his credit, has started almost every single game since last Sunday. Yeah. So we'll see if he continues that route. What's next here? Who's this guy? Oh, that's Mike Talkman. Never mind. Who's this guy? Josh Stoutman. It's a favorite of ours.
He picked up a couple of saves, blew a save.
Got the loss
I still think he's the guy to keep, though.
Okay.
I'm not jumping ship. They've used a couple of guys in the 9th inning when they were down or had a big lead. They didn't go directly to Stoutman, but that would kind of lend me to believe that they're not going to waste Stoutman there because they think he's their closer.
Kyle Higashioka for the Yankees says Yankee fans are demanding that this guy start more and just get rid of Gary Sanchez, which at this point I'd welcome them getting rid of Gary Sanchez and him going to a team that will give him more at bats. But it's not like it looks like it's like another split over there in Yankee land.
If you're starting him, you're starting him for defense. He had the 3 home run game last year. He's a 220 hitter this year. Yeah. He's hit 4 home runs. Congratulations. You win a cookie. I can hit a home run at Yankee Stadium. But I don't think he's really much of fantasy relevant, as much as Martin Maldonado is, maybe.
Moving on to Brennan Belt. It's an old favorite of ours. It seems like He's always creeping up on the waiver wire. Right now, he's only 26% owned. Just it's the perils of hitting in San Francisco. Yes or
no. He's been. I don't think he's even played. He had that foot surgery, and
no, he's back.
How many games has he played?
He's played.
He played 32 games. Jesus, don't listen to me.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be out until like this week. I thought he was just now coming back.
Yeah, I mean last 7 games he's played in every single game. It looks like. Yeah, he's not platooning. He's not pinch hitting. He's getting his 4 regular at bats every single day.
I mean, he's hitting the ball hard and he's walking. He's just seems to be a fly ball machine right now. 33% fly ball rate, which usually is good. We like to see that, except then you realize he's playing in San Francisco and the ball doesn't travel that well.
And the last guy, to say the least. And the last guy on the list, 14% owned, Jose Urena for the Detroit Tigers, has gone back to back 7-inning stints, posting healthy fantasy numbers for fantasy owners. He gets the Twins today. Today is May 8th, a Saturday. And then on the 14th of May, gets the Cubs and Zach Davies.
Wait, who's he pitching against today? I'm sorry.
The Twins and Jose Berrios.
I would in Detroit.
I turned it off.
Oh yeah, I would maybe do it. I don't know. I don't like Jose Urena. I've never liked Jose Urena.
I mean, the last 4 starts, 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, and back on April 16th. I mean, the strikeouts aren't always going to be there, but 7 strong innings from.
Yeah, he's never been a strikeout guy, which is weird because he has such power stuff, but It's because it's a power sinker. Yeah. And the velo is actually down this year, which is interesting. He's still only 29 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it is a good park for him to pitch in. It's a great division for him to pitch in. He's a guy who, depending on the matchup, I would like to stream a lot.
They're both at home, by the way. Both starts today and May 14th. They're both at Detroit.
Yeah, I'd run him out there.
Okay, and that's it. That's all the plays we have for you.
Hey.
The other shows, Dong City, that's tomorrow, Monday, I should say, Monday night, followed by The Audible Football Life with Matt and Randy. That's on Tuesday night. Workshoot Podcast, that's Thursday night with Corey, who chimed in to say hello earlier today, and Jason Brooks. Friday or Saturday, it's the Step Back Podcast with Leon and Jacob. And then every weekend, you come back to us. We start your life group podcast week with the Total Basis Podcast. For me, I am Felipe. For Sean over there, that's Sean. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.